What's going on, everybody? You've got the cardboard coach here with your boy, Coach Co. And team, today we've got a very special guest on the podcast here. We've got the guy with the big hat, Tim from Slab. How you doing today, man?
What's up, bro? How you doing? Everything is like we talked off camera. Everything is great, man. Everything is doing as well as it can, and I couldn't be happier.
I mean, that's when you hear stuff like that come out of people's mouths, it's like, what have you been smoking, bro? But I'm serious though. I mean, it's great. I love that. That's the kind of vibe I want the people around me to have. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many reasons to be negative, but being grateful, if you find things to be grateful for, it's like never ending, man. Like if you
Yeah,
really go deep.
yeah. I moved down to Nashville area about a year and a half ago now, and I was coming from like right in the middle of the city in Providence, and wasn't a very good neighborhood, whatever with that, but I have a backyard now, front yard. I got a nice little spot out here by a lake. And it's one of those situations where because it came from essentially cards, right? I have a product, but that involves cards, but it came from cards, all these opportunities. And not a day goes by where I'm not sitting out on the back porch now. And like literally I feed dare now with corn where I'm
Yeah.
like, this is just amazing. Like it's just I couldn't believe it from 2020 on. It's just been, there's a lot of, and you know this too, there's a lot of like trials and tribulations, and sometimes you get down on yourself. I almost gave up a few times, like you know how it is, and but no, I couldn't be better. Like it's just wild the difference. So every day I truly appreciate what's going on.
I want to hear about that right now.
Yeah.
Honestly. I mean, you said there's a few times where you were down on yourself. I'm sure there's countless people that have listened or are listening right now that something similar has happened to them. Maybe they did quit. Like what was going on where you were like, I just don't know if I can push through this.
Yeah, so my original, I've collected cards my whole life. I literally still have 1990 is the first at least memory. I have a few cards from before that, but opening the it was Flair with the blue border.
Yeah.
NBA, no, that's Flair, and it was NBA Hoops 2 in 91. But opening that hobby box with my father at Christmas, and so I still have that whole set from then too. And so I've always loved cards, and then it wasn't till eBay, and it's like, okay, you're making money here and there, but I don't want to be shipping cards all the time at that point, right?
Yeah.
And so essentially I asked my wife to marry me. She breaks her ankle. We get put in a position. This is during the pandemic. I lost my job already. She can't work anymore. She breaks her ankle, and I had this idea, and it I didn't know if it was going to work. And in the beginning, at this point we have $800 to our name total. I took about, it was like 205 technically. I always say 200 to get a 3D printed version of my product made. And I'm like, so I get it. Now we got $600 and I'm like, okay, I like it, right? But now I have to tell people. I can't just like this product and all of a sudden it doesn't just work like that. Like people, you want to hear criticisms, you want to hear people go, "Oh, that's genius," right? You want to hear that type of
Yeah.
stuff too. Um, and so you just start the process, and then from there, like just a crazy string of meeting people, networking that can help me out and help me out just being genuine because I couldn't. There was no money to be made at this point, right? So the
Yeah.
people, Renee from Storage Wars, is I always say he gave me the best advice. Like he was one of the first three people to see my product, um, and so yeah, you're getting a lot of good feedback. And like in the beginning, it was going so fast, Coach. Like no one was saying no to me. This is what's crazy. No one was saying no to me. Um, Everyone was being so kind to me. Corey from Show Your Slabs, Dan from Stand Up Displays, like they let me go at their table at the first Dallas show that I went to show my product. So then all this stuff is happening, but then you get to a point where it's like, okay, to really make this a business, I need an influx of money. And that's when it gets down to like, because you have to order a bunch of product, right?
Yeah.
That's when it's like you start doubting yourself. How do you do that? And I didn't know how to. I've been a restaurant manager my whole life. How do you do that? How do you ask for a large amount of money? Um, and there was always the belief from people in me, I believe, which is how I was able to get the money. The product was good. The product works. It's still selling now. It's selling
Yeah.
great. And we can get into that later where the product is now. But
Yeah.
that's basically what it was. But in between all that, My wife's got a broken ankle. I have to start traveling a lot. My wife's at home, just left in Providence, and like I said, not that good of a neighborhood. So there's that always in the back of my mind, like, what if something happened? And so you start to doubt yourself when I didn't have enough product at first either, right? So I'm out selling, and I'm like, I'm selling them, but I don't have my website up. So there's just that doubt of, am I doing this right? Or did I turn down someone that could have helped that I didn't listen to because I'm hard headed? And I'm still that way now. Like, I don't like advice, which is crazy. Like, I
Yeah.
just don't like it. And it usually takes me a few days to be like, oh, that person might be right. And then I always have to apologize. But but it's always that, yeah, bro. It's always that self-doubt of like, am I making the right move, or did I say yes to the good money, or did I say yes to the bad money, or yes to the good people, yes to the bad people, or no, So basically, yeah, dude, there's a lot of self-doubt and everything though too,
How did you ask for the money?
bro.
Like, I mean, it's not
I'll tell
something
you,
that's like taught, right? So like, how do you, I mean, if someone's listening, they're like, I have an idea, I've already started kind of, next step is scaling. Like, how do you do that?
bro. I'll tell you the actual how I did it instead of trying to give you some metaphors.
No, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
So, uh, Corey from Show You Slab says to me, "Hey, you need to be at this Dallas card show. This is the first one after the pandemic. This is
Yep.
May
Like
20th
20,
of 2021.
2021. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And it's the one right before the national, right?
Yeah.
So he gives me a spot at his table. I have 13 total pieces, and I don't have any colors at this point. I only have black slab shrooms. I have 13 total. So I go down to Dallas. Stand up displays, Dan is also set up with Corey, so we're all set up. Cool. I get introduced to Clint from Zion Cases. I got introduced very early to Aaron from Slab Stocks. They usually, I'll tell you later. They were selling a product too for scratches at the time, and so I had 13 total pieces, but 5 of them I had my slabs on. And I would
Yeah.
just walk up to Ryan Johnson. I made one of his YouTube videos. And it's funny, right? I've never said this publicly, but I say this to him all the time. I tell his cameraman, "You're the best cameraman in the business," because they edited out where Ryan says he doesn't like my product.
Really?
Yeah, so I go, well, he didn't say he didn't like it. So I walked up to Ryan.
Yeah.
I go, "Hey, man, you're like one of the white whales in the industry. I want to know your opinion."
Yeah.
And I hand it to him, and you'll see in the edit if that it cuts to him saying, "Oh yeah, cool, man, blah blah blah." But in between that, he's like, "I like the slabs to be covered in the front because at that time I didn't even know it could fit back in bag, so he was worried it would get scratched." And I was trying to explain
Mm.
to him, blah, blah, blah. But they edit that part out, so I love him for that. I say it every time, and he gets it. He thinks it's funny. Um, did the same thing to Tampa Bay Card Shop. Really good guys over there, and I'm forgetting all their names right now. But so then I walk up to Jeff Wilson, and at this point, I don't watch content at this point. I still really don't watch it now, and I'm going to be on this, so of course I'm going to watch it. Um,
I get it, dude. I
yeah,
mean, like, you're in
you're
it.
busy
You're
doing
in,
other
you're
stuff
in
too.
it.
Like, you can't watch
Yeah.
everybody's content.
No, you're in it. It's
So
hard.
yeah, so all I know at this point is that Jeff has a lot of eyes on him. That's all I know at this. I don't know his personality. I don't know none of this. So I tell my wife I'm gonna go throw it at the sports card investor. So I walk over to him. I throw the slabs at him. He's like, "Cool." He's like, "Send me an email. We'll talk." At that point, I didn't know his name was spelled Geoff. So I emailed Jeff Jeff at Sports Card Investor. No response, and I'm like, "F that guy, coach." I'm like, "This guy, wants to stop making some troll accounts, like blah
Yeah.
blah blah."
Yeah.
And so then I realized, and I messaged him, and the message when I finally got a response from him, I said, I forget exactly what I said, but basically it was, I'm gonna I'm gonna make it. I need someone to help me make it, and I want an investment, and the only person I'll take an investment from is you. Now that was a lie, because I would have took an investment from other people, but he was the first person I said that to, and he responded with "Let's talk." So it took a couple months. So I flat out asked him and like fluffed him up a little bit, right? I said, "I'm only going to take the investment from you." But my second day in business, HGA at the time, remember when HGA like
Of
hit, like
course. Yeah.
went
Yeah.
viral?
Yeah.
They try to buy my whole company. They try to buy me out my second day in business for 200. I'm sorry, for just $100,000, and I almost gave up. I only had $600 to my name, So I almost gave up. That was one point I almost gave up, and I would have never been on a card. I would have never been the big hat guy. I would have
Yeah.
never been any of this because I would have that
I
would have
mean, it
been
would have
it.
been a cool 100,000 though, right? But it's like
No,
you knew what it was worth.
no, bro. I didn't know anything until
Yeah.
I would have got murdered on
Yeah.
capital gains taxes because I would have sold my business in the first year of bit, bro. I didn't know any of that. I mean, I kind of knew, like, because I watched Shark Tank, right? Like, I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
about
yeah.
business, so like, but um,
But this is shit that people don't talk about though.
yeah, I was so nervous. But imagine though,
Yeah.
bro, like 100,000, and keep in mind, I didn't know about the taxes, but I'm like,
Yeah.
well, we're about to like whatever, like,
Yeah.
and that's not a lot of money to even in one chunk. Don't get me wrong, that's a lot of money, but you can't. That's of living maybe 3
No.
years if you don't make
Yeah.
any more money, right? So that's how I literally just asked, and I guess, but like again, everything was happening so fast for me. No one was saying no. I had other investments. Like another guy tried to invest, but I was like, no, I'd rather take the money from Jeff. He was also given the most money and being the most reasonable of when it needs to be paid back. Everything like
Yeah.
he's been great to me. I literally just asked, and sometimes that's all it takes. Well, that's not all it takes, right? Because you have to
I
make
mean,
the
you put
first
yourself in a
impression.
situation. You put yourself in many situations where you
Yeah,
could be successful.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like I mean, even the fact that you went up to these people and you found a creative way to showcase it. Like it's not enough to just like, hey, look at this, right? Like you actually you're like, I'm gonna throw this thing, and
Yeah.
like that instantly gets people's attention. You're like, I'm gonna throw this, which is like so you don't need to do that. You know what I mean? It's like a bit excessive, but that's what
I
kind of that's what gets you. That's what people remember. Like,
so I
cause I
start.
remember watching that video with like of that Jeff made that like you threw the slab, and I was like, what the
Yeah, the
fuck is
Bo
this guy
Jackson,
doing,
the
bro?
rookie.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I was like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
Bro.
But I mean, you did it.
That's an interesting thing. So I've done a few things. Obviously, the hat. I usually wear a big chain too.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I just always had this vision. So first of all, when I first came out, I wore the same black jeans. Well, they weren't really jeans, but the same black pants, the same Slab Strong black hoodie, and the same Slab Strong hat. Everywhere I went, I did not take off the hoodie. I just like hoodies. But I
yeah.
was down there in the 100-degree Texas weather. I was outside. Like it didn't matter. Like I wanted when you saw me, you were like, "Oh, that's that Slab Strong guy." I don't care if you know my name. That's a Slab Strong guy.
Yeah,
What is Slab Strong?
yeah.
And then I originally started throwing it, right? Just dropping it. And then I started the first video I ever made with a 3D printed version. I threw it off my second floor balcony onto the street in my neighborhood, right? So I'm like, okay, this works. Like I know I can throw it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had a few bears. I'm not gonna lie. Like
yeah.
I made a video where I'm frying it. I put it in the freezer to make like first of all, that doesn't help anything, putting it in the freezer. I boiled it in water. Slab Strong helps with none of that. Don't do that. But I was making I was making a video. So I had a few bears and I throw it off the balcony. I'm like, oh, it works. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so
And so
then
you're like, as long as I don't throw off a second floor, I mean, if it works off a second floor, like we're good. You know what I mean?
yeah, and then so that
Yeah,
gave me the crazy amount of confidence to start doing it. And then when I started doing it by like the really the 10th time, but by the 100th time, I was less nervous about other people throwing it. But what was happening was, um, there was a couple YouTube videos made because I was doing it. People would review and they would throw it. It would work. Like there was no problems. But then like, oh, people would come up to me like, oh, can you for like content? We know you're gonna throw it? Do your thing. Blah blah blah. Mr. Minty, bless his soul.
Steve.
Mr. Minty one time.
Yeah,
Just I first meet him in Atlanta and I'm throwing the card. He goes, hey, come here. He's like, come here. He's like, come here. I'm like, what's up, dude? He's like, hey, just so you know, like the card can move inside. You can damage. I'm just like, Minty, I know, bro. I'm doing it on purpose for
yeah,
like the shock value.
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
get like that's why. But the problem was people would make content throwing their own cards. And I'm like, okay, I'm confident it's gonna work, but let's be real here. Something's gonna happen one
What
day.
if you
Stop
hit a
throwing your
fucking
cards.
rock or you know what I
It
mean? It
doesn't,
just like
whatever.
bounces the wrong
Even
way.
if Slab
Like,
Strong fails, let's just be
yeah,
honest. Even if it
yeah.
so I stopped doing it and I haven't seen it in a while, but yeah, there was so many videos of me just throwing slabs in the beginning and I was having fun with it. I did it with backyard breaks at Tampa show. Like I was just anyone, just throw the slab. And I would say, yeah, take mine and throw it. You'll see it works.
Yeah.
And but yeah, that's how that started. So that was always and I've only hit one person before. It was Karn from Card Sharks
What do you mean you've hit them?
throwing a slab and it
Yeah.
hit the corner and just kept going, bro, like a bowling ball down the thing. Hit Karn in his ankle. Yo, that's the only person that I didn't know him then either. I got to know him because every time I saw him at that point, I'd be like, he'd be like, all right, Tim, he get like, I get it, dude. Like,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
uh,
That's hilarious.
yeah,
That's a quite the segue to getting to know someone. You know, you just like
yeah.
throw something at them, see what happens.
My bad. This is real business we gotta do right here. I gotta text Geo. My bad.
So we built a business. You've managed to acquire some funding. You've decided who you want to partner with moving forward. Like, how does BCW get involved in this now?
Yeah. So um they had reached out. When I say reached out, they kind of were researching my product about a year ago. And well, 2 years ago now. And then they had decided that that's the design, that's the product they want to acquire essentially. And so because I have a patent, I was able to make a licensing deal with them, and now it's technically BCW slab bumpers. That's just something in business. It was,
Yeah,
do I fight for the death or do I really enjoy life by at least my product is out there in the world? So yeah, they've been really good to me. So it's slab bumpers now. Um, the good thing about them is they recognize that I have kind of like also a brand
yeah,
separate from my actual product.
yeah,
So they don't mind the whole slab strong 10 thing, which is cool. So that's essentially what it was. And then once I realized that they want to make slab bumpers, so we made a licensing deal first. So that was how to be the most important piece. Like, how do we figure out the where as a company, we kind of just sit on the side for a little bit and we exist right now. Slabstrong exists only to take in royalty payments at this
yeah.
point, right?
Okay.
Because I'm not manufacturing anymore. I'm not distributing.
Yeah,
So they come and they take care of all that. Plus, they're global.
yeah. Of course.
Yeah. So they're killing it with that. And then, so once that, so here's another example of like, you have to not only before you can even get to the self doubt, put yourself out there first. Stop worrying about like, don't doubt yourself first. Just put yourself out there and then worry about if you did the right thing. Because what happened was I make the licensing deal, and then like that's not, it's good money, but it's not sustaining, life sustaining money. Like I have a family, I want to have kids this year. I don't have any
Yeah,
kids yet, but I want to have kids, right? So I call the CEO. I'm sorry, the CEO, the owner and
yeah,
president. His name is Eric at BCW, and I say, get him on the phone. I'm like, I just want to, didn't talk too much. I just want an opportunity to meet face to face. And we had already made this deal. So I drive 4 hours north, go to their facility in Indiana, and I sit down with them for 2 hours and I just explain why I think it would also be important for them to bring me on board, because now they're selling the product. The royalties is a separate thing, right? They
yeah,
don't have to employ me. And I explained to them how the same similar stories I just told you, how I was able to get to where I was at. And they were like, hey, we don't have anyone like that at the moment. Let's bring them on. So then they made me salaried, had the sports cards and memorabilia. And they gave me like, bro, like a crazy package. I won't get into it, but like a crazy pack of
it's okay.
employment. So
Yeah,
besides the royalties, right? So now I got
yeah,
employment, royalties. So now like good, right? So now we're in Nashville, and that's how the whole BCW thing worked out. They've just been very good to me. They want me to just keep doing what I'm doing, stay myself. They don't want me to be corporate. They specifically said that like don't corporatize yourself. Like you don't have to be a suit and tie. So that now to move a little bit further of like what's going on now with other things like other opportunities
yeah.
is, so now I got, I'm fine, right? I work remote for BCW. I have a great place here. I got royalties coming in, but what else can we do? So then uh, I have a conversation with Mike Gioseffi of Sports Card Nonsense, and
Yeah,
he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna really expand my breaking um, thing, right?"
yeah.
And at the time, he had Card Shop Live, and it was great and everything. And then now we're on Fanatics Live, but he was like, "Hey," so that's why I'm in Nashville, is because Gio was like, "Hey, let's blow this the breaking side, right?" Because him and Jesse kill it with the podcast. I'm not part of the podcast. Him and
Yeah.
Jesse do their thing, and then Gio was working close with Eddie Mancini out in uh, at the time he was Geo Breaks, but now it's SEN Breaks. So now I'm part of like building, not necessarily from the ground floor up, but pretty close to this sports card nonsense breaking. And Gio already had the name. Gio and Jesse already had the name.
Yeah.
So now it's just one extra piece added in where Fanatics Live is looking at it like, oh, the big hat guy, Slab Strong Tim. And
Yeah.
they know me now. I was on a card, right? So they know who I
Yeah.
am. So now I'm linked up with sports card nonsense, and that's also another form of income. So everything now is card related. And it's just crazy to go from 4 years ago at this point down to nothing, down to $600 to getting an investment. Bro, think about it. Bro, I don't know what I'm talking about. I still don't know what I'm talking about. I just
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
no, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Getting
Yeah. Of
investment,
course.
um, getting an investment, then making a royalty deal. So like kind of moving my company twice to make money.
Yeah.
Um, being on some of the coolest cards like I've seen out there. And then just then being able to work with sports car nonsense in the sense of, because Mike could care less about Slab Strong and like the actual product, right? Like
Yeah.
not everyone cares, right? But I bring that different factor with, I'll put myself out there in front of anyone I want to talk to. So now I have that going too, where I'm part of sports car nonsense. So it's just, um, and I mentioned before, I don't know if I mentioned it here or when we were talking before, but so now my wife just left her job so we can stay home, and we're just going to kill it on eBay as like a, so basically like fourth or fifth stream of income at this point. And we don't have to go too hard because we can level out and have a good balance of
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, that's how it all worked out, was literally from pure desperation of not wanting to go back to work after the pandemic and work for myself, to just not giving up, and a lot, and some luck, right? Some luck. BCW chose to make my product, right? They could have made a different design.
Yeah.
Um, Jeff could have said, I'm too busy with the sports card investor thing to, who is this guy just throwing slabs at me?
Yeah.
Um, and then so all that culminated last year into me being on a baseball card too. So that's kind of where everything is at. Is just I like to have fun and be narcissistic about it. Like I like to have a lot of fun, but I'm the king of supplies, all this other
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
realistically, bro, like I don't believe any of this stuff is real.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
I think it's like you got to be good to be lucky and lucky to be good, right?
Mhm.
Like, and the only way that you can improve your luck is by just, I mean, kind of like being unrelenting. And that's what you've done throughout this whole
Yeah.
process. Is like you every time there was an obstacle, you kind of figured out how to overcome it. It wasn't like, okay, I have this product. I don't know how to do patents, so I'm not going to move it any further. You know, like I'm sure you didn't know how to do that either. And like, oh,
Oh,
how do you figure it out? You ask, you Google, you do whatever you need to do. Maybe hire a lawyer, whatever the case may be.
yeah.
Like you're very solution based, and I mean that's I have no I had no doubt that you're gonna get even further than this, and like it's been kind of crazy to watch your transition, of course, because like I remember as you like the big hat guy, I remember you on the Jeff Wilson video, and like obviously you and I have crossed paths so many times to this point, and you
Yeah.
know I can consider you to be one of my good friends in the space, you know, so it's been crazy to watch your transition. I'm glad that you're sharing some of the like in the trenches moments because I think there's a lot of people out there that whether it's sports cards or something else that they're super passionate about, there's been many instances where they didn't know what to do or you know is this it or and really just comes down to like just pushing through that almost, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like because like at any point you could have just said like at any point in it you could have just been like what like the worst case scenario is just going back to a 9 to 5, what most
Yeah.
people do all the time,
Yeah.
right? So like that's like you're not really where are you going? You're gonna end up in the same
Yeah.
place. Like it's not the end of the world. So you might
Well,
as well go for it.
yeah. The other thing too is, number one, it's okay to fail. That's number one too. But you can also have wins and fails. And what I mean by that is, bro, don't get me wrong. I wish that um I would became a millionaire off a product that I invented at my little 2-bedroom apartment in Providence with my wife with a broken ankle. Like I wish I became a millionaire. Oh, that's Slab Strong Tim. He doesn't have to work a day in his life because he sold millions and millions of for Mark from A meant when I first met him and introduced him, he was like, this is like a 5 million uh a year business. And this is before I had any competitors. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna be rich, right? So like, did I fail? Maybe if I'm too hard on myself, but I made a royalty deal. I know nothing about patents to this day. I know how to read my own. I know, well, that's a lie. I know about patents now, but if you go to Google Patents, you can type in my name and it says I'm an inventor. You know how dumb that sounds to me? That I'm an inventor. Um, like technically an inventor.
Yeah.
And I tell everyone that. Um, but yeah, so like there's wins in the fails that you have because yeah, I'm not a millionaire based off of one product, but what was the chance of that anyways? What was the odds of that? I was shooting for the moon. That's the thing, right? That's the metaphor. You
Yeah.
shoot for the stars and you get to the moon. That's what happened. Um, and yeah, man, it's just been beautiful. But the main thing is, and it goes back to what you kind of started with, which is kind of the definition of insanity, is like you have to put yourself out there because I've always thought of it like this. You could be the best basketball player in the world, but what if you only play at the local park and you never tried out for your high school team and you didn't go to college? No one's gonna knock at your door and be like, "Hey, is there a chance that you're a really good basketball player? I'm
Yeah.
gonna
Do you,
recruit
how
you.
would
You're
you
gonna
like
play
to
for the
make millions of dollars? Do you
right, right.
know?
You
Like,
have to put yourself out
yeah.
there. Like no one's gonna come knock at your door and be like, I just had this inclination that you might invent just a rubber, like a protective case for a protective case. And it's like, no, that sounds dumb. I would have kicked you out of my house, but so there's definitely some wins and fails. And then also sometimes when you fail, you just fail. But it doesn't mean you're failing at life either, right? So just keep on pushing. I would suggest to most people, unless you're truly like just truly running yourself into debt and you're not happy, if you're truly not happy, then just give up and do something that makes you happy. But
Yeah.
if the grind, if it's exciting for you to like possibly be like, you know what, I did hear a no this time, but I'm gonna get a yes the next one, then yeah, you're absolutely an entrepreneur. Just keep pushing
I
and
think that, I mean, there's obviously like this entrepreneur culture where like everyone wants to be themselves, and especially now in this day and age, like everyone thinks that they can be their own boss, and I honestly think that there's some people that just can't. I think that it's possible for everybody, but I think that you need to be like a special type of person to be able to challenge yourself, to your point, outside your comfort zone on a regular basis. Like no one's going to be holding you accountable. If you have difficulty like holding yourself accountable to things, I mean, maybe you're holding yourself accountable to the wrong things, but if you find yourself
yeah,
you're in business and you're like, I can't make these phone calls, like you're screwed. They're done. Do you know what I mean? Like, or find a different way to pitch the same idea then, right? Like, but you can't do nothing. That's not an
yeah,
option, right? Like,
yeah,
so I think that I don't know if everyone's got it because I mean it's hard. It's really hard. I mean, there's a lot of times where you're questioning yourself, and there's a lot of times where you have no idea how it's gonna work out. And I find that we kind of gravitate towards like consistency and like what we can see in the future. A lot of times we're like, oh well, there's so much up in the air. It's like I mean, if you look at it from the perspective of like if everything's up in the air, then anything's possible.
yeah,
Versus kind of like oh I don't know what's gonna happen next in like a negative sense.
yeah. And I kind of lost my train of thought for a quick second, but I'll bring it back. Um, there's a few things in this hobby too that I think a lot of people say like, oh, it gets to like the card collector thing. Like, are you a card collector? You're a flipper. You're all that. I don't see anything wrong with creating your own lane in this space. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I did in a sense. I'm not good at content, but this is why like I like doing stuff like this because it helps me with the content because I can
Yeah.
play off people. I can't do what like you and Doc do. I cannot put a camera on myself and make it work. I just can't. I'm stunning. Like I get distracted by my good looks. Is basically is the problem that I'm.
Yeah, of
Oh,
course.
actually, I know what I wanted to say. So when it goes to uh confidence in yourself, putting yourself out there, don't forget like I probably wouldn't have even done it if my wife didn't have my back, right? So if you're maybe a little bit introverted, right, you have to be somewhat extroverted to be like an entrepreneur. But if you're a little bit introverted, there's nothing wrong with relying on the friends that you make in the hobby. Like, um, I don't know if you did the event yet, but just like the Rhino sports card guy,
Yeah.
like just messaging them like, "Yo, Coach Co and Doc would be great for you," whatever it
Yeah.
is, like,
Yeah.
show your slabs. Me, Corey, and Dan from Stand Up Displays would do that for each other. If I was talking to this person, I'd be like, "Hey, don't forget if you ever met Show Your Slabs or Stand Up Displays," or like, "Oh, you're doing this, you're looking for people. Yeah, check out Doc. Like check out Doc's work, or there's some other really good people too. I don't want to leave anybody out, but I'm gonna have to. And so you can use your networking to help get yourself through the tough times as well.
100%.
Tough
Yeah.
times, especially good people like yourself. I'm sure you have guys in your kind of closer inner circle than like how I would be with you, that are just like minimum keep you going a little bit, or you see them doing something cool and you're like, oh, that's motivation for me to now do
Yeah.
it. So yeah, you can definitely use your networking not just for monetary reasons. Use it to keep yourself lifted, get advice from people. So there's tons of things you can do if you're more of an introverted person to still put yourself out there. Just have your friends do it. Yeah, I'm always a big proponent of giving people their flowers, or like
Of
including
course.
people in things.
Yeah, yeah, of course. And like referrals get I mean, it's way better than like a lead out of nowhere, like a DM or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
A referral will get you much further, and no matter what it is. Like no matter what business you're in, a referral is going to get you much further than just like a lead that comes in
like a
off the
random
street.
pitch. I
Yeah,
used to do it. I used
exactly.
to randomly pitch my product on Instagram. I would send a few pictures and be like, hey, check this out. And then you see the people read them, and you're always like, oh man, like Gary Vee is just gonna
Yeah.
throw me $1 million. He just read my message. And then you next thing you know, he blocked you. So it's like, come on, Gary. Shout out my boy Gary. Nah, he's actually
Are
good
you
to me.
blocked by Gary?
No, no, I'm just joking.
Oh,
I met
oh.
him. I walked up to him at the National, filmed it, thought I was cool, my little content guy, and it was just like, hey man, I just want you to know who I am. Not trying to sell you anything. And then at the next National, he ends up, I'm wearing the big hat, so it's easy to remember at least the big hat guy
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
something.
yeah.
And he's walking to my left, and I can see him just looking to his right, looking at me. And I look over to him, he just gives me a smile, just shake his hand. But I've never had a conversation more than 30 seconds with Gary Vee. But every time I see him, I will make sure I make eye contact, say hi to him if I can, and that moves on. And I do that with everybody. I did that with Jeff Gordon from Fanatics. I did that with Michael Rubin, because I just want them to make it easier. That's another thing too. This is what I would do to anybody, because by the third time, it's much easier to start a conversation, because then it's getting awkward that you're just winking at some guy walking by you every time.
Yeah,
Now
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
who's this guy, right? So I stopped Michael Rubin, hey, blah blah blah. So next time he might stop and talk for a second more. By the fourth or fifth time he meets me, he's like, okay, this guy's everywhere. Who is this guy? Let me talk to him for a second. I do that. The same thing with all the tops guys, and now I have actually a few friends there, but pretty much everyone. It's just start a conversation. Don't, like, I wasn't pitching myself too hard in the beginning. It's just like, hey, how you doing? Thanks for your time, and then back and forth, and that's all it is.
That's the way to do it, man. This guy's giving us a master class on business and networking. I absolutely love it. What's next in store for you, non-business related? Like what? Like you said that you're looking to hopefully have a few little ones. Is that true?
Yeah, we'll see how many.
I love that.
It depends the first one. It starts acting up, because I was the second, and if I was my parents, I'd have been like, all right, what are we doing here? This is it. Have you noticed they didn't have any more after me either? So um yeah, I'm down in Nashville now. At this point, honestly, I feel like so we just started getting going, me and my wife going really hard on eBay. And so that's going to be a thing. But other than that, dude, I truly enjoy traveling. I like meeting new people. I don't care if it's business related or not in terms of that. But yeah, we have plans to like go on our first cruise together this year. I have a few things collection wise that I want to obtain. Like I have a few sets that I want to finish from vintage. I actually found a a vintage baseball card in Canada this last time we were up there together.
Yeah?
$30, bro. It came back a four. It's the highest graded vintage card I had. I bought
Really?
30. Yeah, C46. It's like the first Canadian baseball set ever made, and I think it's like 1911 or something like that. So yeah, I
PSA4
have
is no
like,
joke.
oh yeah, dude.
That's impressive.
By the way, I didn't hear what you said. I just said, yeah, dude. What did you say?
Awesome. I said
No, I
PSA.
just that's because listen, I got a lot of respect for Coach. If you say something, I'm like, yeah, bro. But I actually didn't hear what you were saying.
I said a PSA4 is impressive, man. That thing's
Oh
like
yeah,
100 years old. That's
bro.
craziness.
$30 in Canada. I just couldn't believe it. And then the crazy part is I'm walking by. First of all, if anyone out there doesn't know, the Toronto show is my favorite show. It's the best national there is, the November one. Um, I'm walking by. I could only see the corner in one letter of the card because he had it in the card. And I knew exactly what it was. I've been looking for that card for 3 years now, and yeah, I was able to get it. But no, dude, I'm just. It's hard to say what's next in terms of, because I'm doing good now, and it's more like getting because of what's going on with how I get the income, right? It's like, okay, making sure that's tight so I can then add a fifth thing that's either fun or can make money and stay as independent as possible and be able to travel and not truly have to answer to anyone. Like I check in with BCW, but they let
Yeah.
me pretty much do what I have to do. And yeah, so it's tough to say. Definitely want to have some kids. Her parents are gonna kill me. Bro, I moved her to Nashville. They're gonna kill me if we have kids and we don't go home. But it's so good here, dude. I don't know what to do. They basically already threatened my life. Um, but yeah, dude. What else? Oh, and then, bro, check this out.
We're going to
This is
Miami
actually
next week.
oh, dude, I'll see you in Miami.
Yeah, yeah. That's gonna be
That's
good.
gonna be wild, dude. I'm gonna be
Excited.
tan. I'm gonna be tan, dude. I gotta. It's
Not with that
tough,
fucking hat on. What are you talking about?
bro.
You can't. How are
I've
you
been
gonna tan with a
waiting.
big fucking hat?
I shave my head.
Yeah,
I don't know if you ever dealt with that.
yeah,
Uh, and I'm in between a point where I couldn't shave it because then it's harder to shave it when it's lower.
yeah.
So I've been going like a month getting ready for Hobby Slam, dude. I can't wait to shave this mop. This terrible mop. But yeah, that's why I actually wear the hat, kids. It's not promotion. It's just to hide my insecurities.
I fucking love that. That's hilarious. Yeah, and you're gonna be at the national too, correct?
Yeah, yep. So BCW will have a booth set up. I believe I'm gonna be more like floating around. I know I'm gonna do stuff with like I think the Ludex Lounge or something like that.
I'll be
Card
there too.
Carver. Yeah. I I talked to Card Carver. That's dude. Here's the thing. I There's so many good people in this hobby. There's really so many good people in this hobby. So I always like say, oh, I'm working with this dude. But yeah, Tom the Card Carver just became VP of Rapper Cards. I don't know if you
Saw
saw
that.
that's dope.
Big ups to him. Yeah.
Uh, I'll tell you another random thing that happened that's really cool that I think. So I'm a massive fan of Image. Like that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. My favorite comic book character is Shadowhawk. I linked up with the VIP of Image Comics, bro. He's right here in Nashville. This is a completely random chance meeting. Said something to him. I was like, oh, blah blah blah. So I'm gonna be working with them hopefully on some comic stuff, being like an influencer type of comic guy. I don't even
Yeah.
read them though. I just like the pictures. I'm dead serious. I've never read one comic. Um, I just like the cards too that
Yeah,
come
yeah,
with.
that's okay. You don't have to read
But
them.
yeah, dude, and that type of stuff. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I'm going to more shows. You know, I'm gonna go to Chantilly for the first time this year. I'll be back in Toronto in November. Oh, I think I'm gonna get to go to Australia this year in England. Probably
Damn.
open up a distribution center for BCW in Australia. And the guy that is a buddy of mine that he opened it up is killing it. So I'm gonna go to Australia this year. Yeah, dude,
Some
it's just like
big stuff on the horizon. See what happens. You bet on yourself. Good stuff. Good stuff. Betting on yourself and hard work. Tim,
mhm.
man, I want to thank you so much for jumping on and sharing your story and motivating so many other people, hopefully, to keep pressing, doing what they feel they need to do. I mean, it feels like you had like a natural draw to all of this, and I mean, obviously, it's paying dividends. So, brother, I appreciate you jumping on. And team, if you're not already following Tim Slabstrong, you absolutely need to, at the very least, because some of the memes he posts on a regular basis are on point, man. You're
Bro,
killing it.
that one video where it's you, Jeremy Lee. I was gonna put Johnny from Mint
From
Ink in there, and then
Mintink.
I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't do that to the audience. Just straight white forehead all over the meme. But dude, yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, follow me if you just want to talk reckless. I don't mind. Put comments. I don't care.
I love it. I
Talk
mean, it's
stupid,
all
brother.
about the engagement, right? So it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, could care
Yeah.
less. Yeah.
Appreciate you. Thanks for jumping on again, team. Like I said, let us know in the comment section what stood out the most to you, and if you're not following Tim, I might block you from every channel. So appreciate you.
Luck.
Take care, everybody. Coach Co and Tim are out of here. Peace.